My point is that we are living in really a very different world than it was a couple of decades ago. And when we were talking some time ago about conventional threats, about even some treaty, which now it's frozen and even killed, Conventional Forces Europe Treaty, not valid anymore. So that was also about traditional weapons, tanks, APCs, ships. But now we are talking about something else. And this is really what reflects and what Sorin does in HQ. Modern challenges or hybrid threats, whatever you can call, this is right thing to say. But again, reflecting situation in Ukraine, because we're circling around Ukraine, in my view, it's what's happening there. It's not about Ukraine, but it's basically about us. And it's a very good moment to look at us, what we are doing, how we're perceiving the situation, are we reacting in time or too late, are we doing enough or not sufficiently. And this is, again, very interesting issue to be discussed. Interesting also to have your opinion, because we are have a lot of influential, important organizations, NATO, European Union. Thank you for mentioning United Nations. Indeed, this month we are holding presidency in the UN Security Council. It's a big challenge for a small country, Lithuania. But again, what is the difference? Because we have aggression in the middle of Europe conducted by a permanent member of UN Security Council. We're having many meetings, and the situation is still as it is. So what are we doing in regard to these new challenges? Because these are not only cyber, which could be discussed, but in regard to Ukraine, maybe not so important to discuss, particularly this issue. Maybe energy would be something to be discussed. Also information. And this information field, information war, we are losing, in my view. We are capable to win, but we're losing because we are underestimating or neglecting or not taking due course sometimes, and this is also our problem. So my provocative point will be to you that I am not going to accuse NATO or European Union for what's happening in Ukraine, because we are not occupying that country. But I can just invite you to think about the issue that we could be part of the solution, but we are becoming part of the problem, because being capable to influence, not doing enough. Definitely the bulk of everything and what should be done, reforms, it should be done in Ukraine, of course. We cannot do reforms for them, but we must, so to say, assist and help, because it's really, some wounds are so deeply rooted, and now in the process of war they should conduct reforms, and at the same time receive assistance from European Union, which is not so easy to do, to make it transparent, to get rid of corruption, which is not possible even to do in short period of time. So we have to send also expertise. Are we doing that? Yes, we are trying to do. At least Lithuanians, we are trying to do. We can find a lot maybe too strong, but many Lithuanian faces, even the government or in some establishment, which is a bit risky point. It's already criticized, because if you're taking part, so you're sharing risks, and you can be blamed after that, look, you are guilty, you tried to do something. Because Lithuanian guy is Minister of Economy. It was mentioned today during our discussion, he's trying to get rid of a big number of employees in the ministry. Can you imagine what kind of motivation among all these bureaucrats when the minister coming and saying, look, this ministry is not needed anymore, we have to just, so to say, delete from the list. And this is going on. Or other guy, former commissioner in European Union, Mr. Šemeta, now he's business ombudsman. Sounds very strange, but this is exactly what he has to do. It's corruption. And to fight with that, but you should have some leverages. We also send Ministry of Foreign Affairs, we send our expert to the government, former advisor to the president, dealing with economy, with reforms, channels of communications with the European structures. He also has to have some leverage, and some legal system should be adopted, which is really sometimes no time for that, and not enough motivation because of this deep-rooted bureaucracy. And also, let's remind, war is going on, so to say. It's also not so easy. It's easy to talk, but you're talking sometimes about long-term reforms. So really not so easy, but we have to do it. And in information field, I'm so happy to say, just for introductory remarks will be enough, maybe just to mention that we try to convince our colleagues that this is really not a simple thing. It's just just not a propaganda what we are trying to do. We're trying to withstand or trying to neutralize or mitigate all these threats which are coming from this propaganda machine, because not all of our colleagues understood what we were talking about. Because free media is a must, freedom of speech is a must, and we are really personally not in favor about these restrictions or censorship. No, it's not nowhere to go. But let's provide our people with alternatives. There were recently cases against Gazprom, and the European Commission had a case against Gazprom because of monopolizing, so to say, role of gas supplier, right? And also monopolizing this role and making not fair and transparent process with regard to the pricing. It's the same story in information. Russian state-controlled TV channels monopolizing role of suppliers of information between in the midst of Russian-speaking population. And this is not a simple thing. I'm always saying that there are examples. In Crimea, people were happy to welcome Russian soldiers because elderly people were convinced that bandits and fascists coming from Kiev to kill them. It was through propaganda channels, and you cannot blame them. They simply have no alternative sources. Of course, if you are so smart and you can use other sources, fine, but usually not. Elderly people, they're using what they traditionally have to use. Or in Moldova, I remember also there was the same story in the church where Archbishop told me that, look, we arranged some altar after events in Maidan, after victims brought some pictures and the Ukrainian flag, and people came and said, remove this flag, it's a terrorist flag, Ukrainian flag. And they are convinced it's a terrorist country, which was so widely spread, these lies. So these lies are spread, and we would like to have our role in that, not to censor or prohibit or close something, but to provide with more alternatives, to have information really more accountable, to raise awareness in that, to be more assertive with regard to information. And we can do that, frankly speaking, not doing so far. But I'm saying this not in vain, because now we even launched some initiative in European Union, maybe you know about that, together with Denmark, UK, Estonia, and we had some ideas which now are in the cooking, and group for strategic communications organized in HQ, and hopefully heads of state in June will discuss this issue. Probably will come up with more tangible action plan in order to meet this challenge, which is hybrid. It's asymmetric, call it whatever. This has to do with the motivation of people or demotivation of people. How you can win hearts and minds of people who are spoiled. And we always using this term as littering of oceans as a big deal for the world, and littering of minds not less detrimental and not less so to say problematic. We're not talking about that. So this is really a modern challenge. This is really something which is very new and not useful. And one more point, the last one, not to take more time. We always lagging behind. Together with Sorin, we were sometime in NAC, and I remember we're discussing about reforms in the HQ, reforms on our machinery, and sometimes we noticed we are lagging behind of the events. You know, events are developing, and we are still discussing. And one day I remember we discussed that no one in HQ speaks Arabic, for instance. If you remember, why? Because never before. But why never before? Never before, but that means why we shouldn't do that. Now it's not the case, it's okay, but it was some time ago. Or energy security, which is the business of Sorin Ducaru now. I remember before 2006, it was not existing in NATO HQ at all. It was no go. Nobody understood what we're talking about. Or at the same time, we're saying, look, it's leverage. It's not tanks, missiles, but it's something you can cut, so to say, supply, and you can remove government, frankly speaking. You can do a lot of things. And this is the issue to be addressed, and after 2006 summit in Riga, we have this issue on the table in the documents of heads of states, and this is not having, so to say, ambitions to cover everything, but just this narrow security segment, because we are not going to coordinate all energy security in the world. We have to address this our, so to say, segment, which is important with regard to the security. But again, my point, it was not before 2006, to be precise. It's just after. And it could be earlier, probably, sooner than later. And very, very last point, I'm proud for Baltic states that we have, by accident or not, but we are hosting centers of excellence exactly dealing with these new challenges. cyber in Estonia. In Lithuania, we have Energy Security Center of Excellence, NATO Center of Excellence, and in Latvia, Information Strategic Communications Center of Excellence, which is exactly explaining a new role of NATO in contemporary world, which is really wider, it's really more complex, and maybe more interesting.